After my father's funeral, when my brother Michael said, "The will shows all the real estate goes to me," I replied through my tears, "Okay, big brother." But 2 weeks later, when the notary showed me the original will, everything changed. Michael had prepared a fake document, trying to steal my father's $3.5 million inheritance. While I was crying at that funeral, I was already gathering evidence to give to the prosecutor. The real battle was about to begin. Before I tell you this story, you need to understand our family background and history intimately. My father, Richard Thompson, was born in Boston and came to Chicago at 22 with only $5,000 in his pocket. Through 35 years of hard work and dedication, he built Thompson Construction Company from small renovation jobs into million-dollar projects. Michael was 4 years older than me and had been Dad's golden child since birth. With his athletic build, charismatic personality, and natural leadership qualities, he captured everyone's attention wherever he went. I was the quiet child of the family, graduated from Northwestern University with an accounting degree, bookworm type, never hurt anyone, always stayed in the shadows, the typical little brother who lived in his older sibling's shadow. The difference between us had been apparent since childhood. Michael was the captain of the high school football team, the student who gave graduation speeches. Girls chased after him constantly. I was in the math club, quietly taking my notes, focusing on academic excellence. Dad would attend Michael's games, cheering from the stands, "That's my boy." My achievements, however, often went unnoticed or were overshadowed by Michael's more visible successes. This pattern continued through our university years. Michael studied business administration and immediately started working at Dad's company right after graduation. I, as an accounting graduate, was trying to gain experience at different firms across the city. Every Christmas dinner, Michael would talk about his latest successes at the company, and Dad would listen with obvious pride and satisfaction. I would just smile quietly, eating my meal in relative silence, feeling like an outsider in my own family. In 2019, when Dad had his first heart attack, Michael immediately began taking a more active role in the company operations. "Dad, you rest, I'll handle everything," he would say constantly, positioning himself as the responsible son. Dad trusted him completely, relying on his judgment and business acumen. I was working at a large accounting firm in Chicago during that period, visiting Dad on weekends when my schedule permitted. Dad's health deteriorated further during the 2020 pandemic period. During the isolation period at home, Michael visited him daily, providing updates about business situations and company operations. I could only communicate through video calls due to restrictions and my work obligations. This situation strengthened Michael's bond with Dad even more, as he became the primary caretaker and business liaison. Towards the end of 2022, Dad improved somewhat and expressed that he wanted to see me more frequently by his side. "David, you're also part of this company legacy. Let's plan our family's future together," he had said during one of our conversations. These words had made me incredibly happy and hopeful about my role in the family business. When Dad passed away, he was 68 years old. That morning, Michael called me saying, "David, Dad has been taken to the hospital. Come immediately." When I rushed to the hospital, it was too late. Dad had died of a heart attack at midnight, alone except for the medical staff. The funeral arrangements were entirely under Michael's control and supervision. All family friends, business partners, Dad's 40-year friendships, everyone attended the funeral ceremony. Michael gave all the speeches, greeted people, managed the organization perfectly with military precision. I just cried quietly in the background, overwhelmed by grief. People would come to me saying, "Our condolences, David, your brother is so strong and capable." 3 days after the funeral ceremony, Michael called me to his house in Winnetka. This house was a property Dad had purchased in 1995, a spacious, 6-bedroom elegant mansion with beautiful gardens. Michael was sitting behind the large study desk, Dad's old mahogany desk that had been in the family for decades. In front of him were official-looking documents, and lawyer John Richardson stood beside him with a serious expression. "David," Michael said with gravity and formality, "we need to read Dad's will together. This is a very important moment in our family's history. Are you ready for this?" My heart rate accelerated rapidly. Dad had never discussed the will with me in detail, never hinted at its contents. "I'm ready, brother," I said, settling into the leather chair across from the desk. Lawyer Richardson placed the document on the table and began reading in a monotone legal voice. The words echoed in my ears like distant thunder. "I, Richard Thompson, being of sound mind and body, hereby declare my last will and testament." Then came the devastating shock that would change everything. According to the will document, all of Dad's assets, 100% of Thompson Construction Company, 2 properties in Los Angeles, total value $1.2 million, the main house in Chicago, valued at $800,000, the vacation home in Scottsdale, Arizona, valued at $600,000, all bank accounts, $900,000, everything went to Michael. All I received was Dad's 2015 Honda Civic and a check for $10,000. Blood rushed to my brain, creating a dizzy sensation. "This can't be right," I said, trembling with disbelief. "Dad wouldn't do such a thing. We're both his children, his blood." Michael took a deep breath, playing the role of the surprised but accepting son. "David, I was shocked initially too, believe me. But Dad made his decision based on careful consideration. He saw me as his eldest son, the person who would continue the business legacy. You always remained on the academic side, never actively participated in the business world." "But Michael, this isn't fair or just. Did Dad not love me then?" Michael shrugged with apparent resignation. "David, of course Dad loved you. But business is different from emotions. Thompson Construction represents 35 years of legacy and hard work. Dad wanted it to be in the right hands, hands that could continue his vision." Lawyer Richardson interjected professionally. "David, I understand this is a difficult situation to process. But the will is legally valid and binding. Signatures, witnesses, all procedures have been completed according to Illinois state law." At that moment, my world collapsed entirely. It wasn't just the financial loss that devastated me, but thinking that Dad considered me worthless, unworthy of his trust and legacy. Through my tears, I said, "Okay, brother," and stood up unsteadily. "We'll discuss this matter later when I've had time to process." When I returned home that evening, I cried all night long. Memories with Dad flashed before my eyes like a movie reel. Him helping me with math homework when I was small, proudly smiling at my high school graduation, saying, "That's my smart boy," when I received my university diploma. Did he really not love me after all? The following 2 weeks, I was in complete depression and despair. I didn't want to go to work, couldn't concentrate on anything, didn't want to talk to anyone about the situation. Friends kept calling to check on me, but I wouldn't answer the phone. There was no sound from Michael either, as if I had never existed, as if he was continuing his life without any consideration for my emotional state. 2 weeks later, on Monday, March 11th, I received a phone call from the notary who had known Dad for many years. "Is this David Thompson?" said an elderly woman's voice on the phone. "Yes, this is David speaking." "This is Margaret Henderson, your father's notary. I need to see you urgently. There's a very important matter regarding the will that requires immediate attention." My heart rate quickened with anticipation and anxiety. "What kind of matter, Mrs. Henderson?" "I can't discuss this over the phone for legal and privacy reasons. Can you come to my office this afternoon? This is truly urgent and time-sensitive." Mrs. Henderson's office was located in downtown Chicago, on the 4th floor of an old but distinguished building. The 67-year-old woman had been practicing notary work for 30 years, and Dad trusted her implicitly with all his legal matters. When I entered her office, she appeared very worried, anxious, and visibly shaken. "David, please sit down," she said, her hands trembling slightly. "I need to show you something of critical importance that will change everything you think you know." She went to her large safe and retrieved another document from within. "David, this is your father's real will," she said, placing the document on the table with careful hands. "The document Michael showed you is completely fake." The world seemed to spin around me uncontrollably. "What do you mean exactly?" "We prepared this will 3 months ago, on December 15, 2022. Your father gave very clear and specific instructions about his wishes. He wanted his assets to be distributed equally between you and Michael with no favoritism. As I read the document in my hands, I couldn't believe my eyes. According to the Real will, 50% of Thompson Construction Company to me, 50% to Michael. The main house in Chicago goes to me. Los Angeles properties go to Michael. Scottsdale vacation home to be equally shared. Bank accounts to be equally divided. Mrs. Henderson, how did Michael manage to prepare a fake will? Is such a thing even possible? The elderly woman took a deep breath, gathering her thoughts. David, Michael visited me 2 months ago, on January 20th. He claimed that your father wanted to prepare a new will, that he had changed his mind about everything, that he had decided to leave all his assets to him exclusively. What did you tell him? I became very suspicious immediately, because when your father prepared the will on December 15th, he was very determined and clear about his intentions. Margaret, they're both my sons, I love them both equally, he had said with conviction. Such a sudden change wouldn't fit his character or values. What happened next? Michael offered me $15,000 in cash. He said if I would prepare the fake will and hide the real one, I would receive this money as payment. I became very angry and threw him out of my office. Your father was an honorable man, I would never do such a dishonest thing, I told him firmly. So now you understand that he had the fake document prepared through another route. Yes, David. And what's worse, I've identified the person who prepared the fake will for Michael. Shock upon shock continued to hit me. Who is it? Someone named Robert Martinez. This man previously served 3 years in prison for preparing fake documents and fraud. He's now free, but still involved in illegal activities according to my sources. How did you learn about this connection? David, I've been doing this work for 30 years. In legal circles, everyone knows everyone else's methods and specialties. When I examined the will Michael showed you, I recognized the signature patterns and document formatting as Martinez's work. My mind was completely confused and overwhelmed. Could all of this really be true? Mrs. Henderson, what do we do now? David, we have all the evidence we need. We can prove that Michael had a fake document prepared and tried to steal your inheritance rights. But this is a very serious accusation with major consequences. Michael could face prison time for both will forgery and fraud charges. Are you absolutely certain you want to proceed? At that moment, Dad's favorite saying came to my mind. He always used to say, David, the most important thing in life is justice. If you remain silent against injustice, injustice grows and spreads like cancer. Fighting for justice may be difficult, but it's always the right thing to do. I'm certain, Mrs. Henderson, I said with firm determination. Dad would want justice to prevail. Mrs. Henderson gave me all the legal documents and promised to help me through this process. First, we examined every detail of the real will carefully. When Dad prepared the will, 2 witnesses were present, Jonathan Miller, Dad's business partner for 20 years, and Samuel Davis, Dad's accountant. These were people Michael had never met, therefore couldn't influence or manipulate. The next step was investigating how Michael had managed to get the fake will prepared. Using Mrs. Henderson's clues and professional connections, we began the search for Robert Martinez. For an entire week, I worked like a private detective, following leads and gathering information. I learned that Martinez lived on the South Side and operated a small print shop. I went to his store and introduced myself as a potential customer. Martinez was in his mid-40s, thin, with a nervous appearance and shifty eyes. What kind of work do you need? He asked suspiciously. I need special documents prepared, I said carefully, testing the waters. His eyes lit up with interest. How special are we talking about? From that conversation, I understood I was in the right place. But I needed to gather evidence more intelligently and carefully. A friend of mine gave you some work recently. Michael Thompson. He was satisfied with your services. Martinez's face changed completely. I don't know any Michael, he said quickly, too quickly. But it was too late, his reaction was telling. Okay, I said, there must be some misunderstanding. After leaving the store, I decided to conduct more detailed research around Martinez's activities. I spoke with his neighbors and local business owners. One of them gave me very important information. Last month, a wealthy-looking man came to see Martinez. He had a big car, wore a business suit. They stayed inside for several hours. This description matched Michael perfectly. Then I tried to research Martinez's bank accounts. Of course, this wasn't possible through official channels, but a friend of mine worked in the banking sector and helped me gather information. While examining Michael's bank records, I made a shocking discovery. One day before Dad's death, on March 8th, Michael had made a large cash withdrawal of $50,000. $25,000 of this money went to Martinez for the fake will, and the rest was used for other illegal expenses related to the scheme. This meant that Michael had prepared the fake will plan while Dad was still alive. Perhaps he had even been waiting for Dad's death, planning this elaborate fraud in advance. This thought disturbed me greatly. Was Michael really such an evil person? Had I misjudged my own brothers so completely? After gathering all the evidence, I began searching for a qualified attorney. Mrs. Henderson recommended Jessica Brooks to me. Jessica specialized in inheritance law, had 15 years of experience, and was famous for winning high-profile cases. Jessica's office was located on Michigan Avenue, on the 20th floor of a modern glass facade building. She was in her 40s, self-confident, and thoroughly professional in her demeanor. "David," she said after examining my file thoroughly, "you have incredibly strong evidence here. I rarely see such a clear-cut fraud case with this much documentation. Michael could face 5 to 10 years in federal prison for both will forgery and fraud charges. But you know this will turn into a major war within your family. Michael is your older brother. This process could tear your entire family apart permanently. Are you absolutely sure you want to proceed with prosecution?" "Jessica, Michael didn't just deprive me of inheritance. He insulted Dad's memory, violated his last wishes, and betrayed everything our family stands for. This isn't just about money, it's about principles and justice." "I understand completely. Then you need to be prepared for legal warfare of the highest magnitude." Jessica decided to first warn Michael and his attorney. We gave him 1 week to withdraw the fake will and accept the real will voluntarily. On March 24th, an official letter was sent to Michael. "Dear Mr. Michael Thompson, on behalf of my client David Thompson, I am writing to you regarding your father Richard Thompson's will. We have documents proving that the real will was prepared on December 15, 2022. We can provide evidence that the document you submitted is fake and was prepared by Robert Martinez. We are giving you 1 week. Withdraw the fake will and accept the real will. Otherwise, criminal prosecution will be initiated. Respectfully, Jessica Brooks, attorney." Michael's response came very quickly. On March 26th, through his attorney Marcus Sullivan, we received this reply. "Dear Ms. Brooks, your client's allegations are completely baseless and without merit. Richard Thompson's will was legally prepared and is valid. We strongly reject this attempt at defamation and blackmail. Your client cannot think rationally during the grief process and cannot accept his father's decision. Prove these groundless accusations in court. Marcus Sullivan, attorney." The war had officially begun. Jessica immediately took action. First, we located the witnesses of the real will. Jonathan Miller was now 64 years old, retired, but his friendship with Dad continued. "David," Jonathan said when he saw me, "I was very saddened by your father's death. Richard was a very good man with strong moral principles. Mr. Miller, were you present when Dad's will was prepared?" "Of course. It was December 15th at Mrs. Henderson's office." Richard spoke very clearly. "I love them both equally, I want fair distribution," he said emphatically. "Did he ever mention Michael specifically?" "No, David. Quite the opposite. Michael is successful but David is also my son. I want to support them both equally," he had said. Samuel Davis confirmed the same things. Both witnesses could describe the will preparation process in detail. Then we took Mrs. Henderson's formal statement. We documented that Michael had offered her a bribe, wanting her to prepare a fake will. The biggest breakthrough came regarding Robert Martinez. The FBI's white-collar crime division began investigating Martinez following Jessica's application. They wanted information about his past criminal records and current illegal activities. When federal agents apprehended Martinez, they seized all his communication records with Michael. Martinez's phone records contained conversations with Michael, text messages, and even bank transfer records. Martinez accepted the offer. The court process began on April 15. It would take place at Cook County Courthouse, in Judge Patricia Williams's courtroom. At the first hearing, Michael appeared very confident. He wore an expensive suit and looked self-assured. His attorney Marcus Sullivan was an experienced criminal defense lawyer. Jessica's opening statement was very impressive. "Your Honor, this case is not just about inheritance disputes. This case is about fraud, deception, and family betrayal." David Thompson's older brother prepared an elaborate scheme to steal his father's $3.5 million inheritance. Michael's attorney pursued a different strategy. "Your Honor, this is a tragic family dispute. David Thompson cannot accept his father's decision and is making desperate attempts." The first witness was Jonathan Miller. He described what Dad said when preparing the real will, his clear request for equal distribution. "Richard was very clear," Jonathan said. "He said he loved both sons equally, that he wanted the company to be divided equally between them." Michael's attorney attacked during cross-examination. "Mr. Miller, you had a business partnership with Richard Thompson. Did David Thompson make you any promises?" "Objection," said Jessica. Leading question. "Sustained," said the judge. Samuel Davis confirmed the same things. He described the will preparation process and Richard's clear instructions in detail. On the second day, Mrs. Henderson testified. The 67-year-old woman described how Michael had offered her a bribe, wanting her to prepare a fake will. "Michael offered me $15,000, Mrs. Henderson said, trembling. "He said if I prepared a fake will and hid the real will, I would receive this money. I refused. I had served Richard for 30 years, I could never do such a thing." Michael's attorney attacked here too. "Mrs. Henderson, is your memory reliable at 67 years old? Are you sure you're not confused?" "Objection, argumentative," said Jessica. Sustained. The third day brought the biggest shock, Robert Martinez's testimony. Martinez had accepted the FBI's deal. In exchange for immunity, he would tell everything. "Michael Thompson came to my shop in January," Martinez said nervously. "He wanted a will forgery job. He offered $25,000. "What did he tell you?" Jessica asked. "He said he wanted to change his father's will, but there was already a prepared will. He said if I prepared a fake will, it needed to look exactly like the original, the signatures had to be perfect." "How much money did you receive?" $25,000. Cash payment. "What else did Michael tell you?" "He said his father would die soon, that nobody would suspect anything. He said the plan was very detailed, that his brother wouldn't understand anything." This testimony had a bomb effect in the courtroom. Michael's face had turned completely white. Michael's attorney made a desperate cross-examination. "Mr. Martinez, you're a convicted felon. You received immunity in exchange for your testimony. Aren't you lying?" "No, sir. The FBI has all the evidence. Phone records, bank transfers, everything." On the fourth day, FBI agent Sarah Coleman testified. She presented the evidence obtained from Martinez's phone. 15 phone calls between Michael and Martinez. Text messages detailing the plan. Bank transfer records showing the $25,000 payment. Martinez's confession tapes. "Agent Coleman, what do these pieces of evidence show?" Jessica asked. "They show an elaborate fraud scheme. Michael Thompson planned before his father's death, systematically attempted to steal the inheritance." On the fifth day, it was Michael's turn to defend himself. His attorney Marcus Sullivan changed strategy. "Your Honor, Michael Thompson may have made irrational decisions during the grief process. But the intent wasn't criminal, it was a family dispute." When Michael took the witness stand, he appeared very nervous. "Michael," said his attorney, "what do you think about your father's will?" "My father saw me as a businessman. He thought I could continue the company. David is successful in the academic field, but inexperienced in business. Jessica's cross-examination was devastating. Michael, why did you pay Martinez $25,000? That money has nothing to do with Martinez. Phone records show you spoke with Martinez 15 times. What did you discuss? I don't remember. You began preparing the fake will while your father was alive. Isn't this evidence of premeditated fraud? Objection, shouted Marcus Sullivan. Withdrawn, said Jessica. But the damage was done. On the sixth day, closing arguments were made. Jessica's closing statement was powerful. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, Michael Thompson prepared an elaborate fraud scheme because of his greed. He chose money over his father's love. He tried to destroy his brother through deception. Richard Thompson's real last wish was equal distribution. Justice demands truth. Marcus Sullivan made a last attempt. This is a tragic family situation. Brothers fighting over inheritance. Michael made mistakes, but there was no criminal intent. Mercy is needed. The jury deliberation lasted 6 hours. On May 8th, the verdict was announced. Judge Patricia Williams stood up. Michael Thompson, the jury has found you guilty of both will forgery and inheritance fraud. There was silence in the courtroom. Sentencing will be on May 15th. Until then, you will remain in custody. As Michael was led away in handcuffs, he looked at me. There was no longer arrogance in his eyes, only regret. At the May 15th sentencing, Michael received 6 years in federal prison and a $100,000 fine. Judge Williams stated, "This case involves elaborate fraud. You violated family trust and dishonored your deceased father's memory. Severe punishment is required." As we left the courthouse, Michael and I met for the last time. "David," he said quietly, "I'm sorry. Greed blinded me. I dishonored father's memory." "Michael," I said, "I forgive you. But what you did was not only a betrayal to me, but also to Dad's legacy." That day, driving home, I remembered Dad's favorite quote, "Justice sometimes comes slowly, but always comes eventually." The real will was legally recognized and Dad's assets were equally divided. 50% of Thompson Construction came to me. The Chicago house became mine. Los Angeles properties remained Michael's when he gets out of prison. Bank accounts were equally split. But the real victory wasn't the money. It was truth winning. Michael was released after 4 years for good behavior. When he got out of prison, he came to me. "David," he said, "I did you a huge injustice. I have no right to ask for forgiveness, but don't forget that we're brothers." I forgave him. Because carrying hatred only burns the heart, it doesn't bring justice. Michael now works as a laborer in the construction field, but he's not the same as before. This incident taught him a lot too. Thompson Construction is now a stronger company because it's built on a foundation of justice. This is my story. My brother tried to steal the inheritance, and I gave his fake documents to the prosecutor. In the end, justice prevailed. Life lesson: remaining silent against family injustices makes injustice grow. Sometimes you need to be honest against the people you love most. Dad was right. Justice always wins, but you have to fight for it.